a concept together. And you know, the power of this school is when people work together, what I call the collective intelligence.
In this final episode, I'm talking with ETH President Joël Mesot about steering one of the world's top research universities into the future and the legacy he hopes to leave behind. This is the We Are ETH podcast, and I'm Susan Kish, your host. Joël, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Susan, for inviting me.
What is it that, what is a day like as the university president? I mean, do you wake up at 4 a.m. to read all your emails, and then you exercise for 2 hours, and then you go to the gym, and then you come in?
I tried that. It didn't work for me.
That's
reassuring. I prefer to exercise in the evening.
Okay.
So I wake up, quite early. Mm-hmm. And I like to take a very small breakfast. And then I have to travel to come to ETH.
How far do you go?
I have 50 minutes from door to door, and it's perfect. It allows me to start the day, as you said, in the train, to read my emails of the night, and then in the evening, I can start to relax. And then, because the days are extremely intense, we have a very tight programs running from one meeting to the next, and the role of president is quite intense, but it's super exciting too.
And are you able to get home usually for dinner, or do you have to go out to eat a lot?
It's every evening.
You go out?
Yeah, every evening.
Wow.
That's the heavy part, but that's the part I'm enjoying too. We do a lot of fundraising, and so there are a lot of meetings in that direction. And if we want to increase the fundraising effort, then it means more evenings for that reason. There are other events at ETH. There are events in Bern with politics. And I must say, in the past 7 years since I'm president, this has only increased from year to year.
Do you like the fundraising?
I love it, yes. It's something I discovered.
I'm so impressed.
No, it's something I discovered. And I like people.
Yeah.
And then you meet all kinds of people, and then we connect at some point. Yes.
How do you make the ask? I mean, you got the largest donation ever for the ETH, right? 100 million Swiss francs, which is a lot. How do you develop that relationship? How do you actually get them to say yes and write that check?
So it's always the same. We talk about content. We are passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
We present a project, and then or several projects, and then we see where there is common interest. And once this is done, then it kind of rolls out.
That's great. Can you talk a little bit about that project? It was the Bucher Foundation.
There is, over the years, a sense of urgency that have been developing. We have to be faster in the translation of our research in the labs. And that's why we launched a number of initiatives around energy storage, around space, exactly. So one of that is the Geo Lab, but it's broader than that. You know, it's also in the field of health, AI, cybersecurity, all very urgent issues that we need to address for our society, just to fulfill better our mission, to serve society better.
So it sounds like you had to switch from almost incremental, right? An additional professorship here, an additional there, to really programmatic in terms of the way you approached it.
And in the future, with the board of ETH, we want to go more in that direction. And the Geo Lab effort is like a pilot project. We wanted to see if that works. And that means that several professors need to come together, develop a concept together. And you know, the power of this school is when people work together, what I call the collective intelligence. And when that starts to resonate, I mean, there is no limit, right? And so we want to develop further these kind of ideas.
So I love the concept of collective intelligence. I totally believe in it. But I have always understood that in universities, this guy has his ivory tower and that guy has his ivory tower and she has her ivory tower, that they aren't necessarily a place where they all decide that they want to work together. How did you overcome that traditional perspective?
So I think we need both type of people, right? We will always have super deep researchers in one super accurate field. But I think through the COVID time, we learned how powerful we can be when we need to address a topic. And we were able to launch some projects that, the entire school started to work on COVID-related issues.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, we had to send out everyone home. And after a few weeks, we said, okay, let's allow researchers to come back to ETH if they are working on COVID-related issues. And suddenly, projects that would need maybe 1 or 2 PhD typical time, so 3 to 6 years, were realized within weeks.
No kidding.
And that happened.
That's crazy.
We created the Swiss COVID app, this tracking app on the...
I remember those.
And that was realized in 6 weeks. And that was the very first worldwide protocol that was designed and realized. And the operating systems of Apple and Google were modified to allow our systems to be implemented. Huge performance. And it was taken over by many, many countries. Millions of people were using this app.
What's interesting is that last week I went to see a nuclear fusion plant outside of Boston from Commonwealth Fusion Systems. And they were contrasting the speed and pace of development of fusions and different approaches, right? U.S. private sector, go, 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 go. China, huge amounts of money from the federal government, right? And making great progress. And Europe, a little incremental, a little slow, everybody together, all collide. But your examples illustrate that moving slowly is not determinant, right? You don't have to move. Europe and Switzerland for innovation and actually making things happen doesn't have to be slow. And that's a really interesting example for that.
Absolutely. I think ETH and the ETH domain, so ETH, EPFL, and the 4 research institutions, we are in a slightly different position than most research institutions in Europe.
Why is that?
In the sense that we have a large degree of autonomy. So we can take decisions by our own. Of course, we have to sort out how to get the financing within our institution. But once we are able to put in place a structure that allows to go for these kind of initiatives, then we can be extremely fast. I give you another example. We realized within the ETH domain, the new Swiss large language model that was announced a few weeks ago. And also because we have invested in the last 10 years in our supercomputer in Lugano. And all this we did on our own. Of course, we have federal funding,
right?
But we are autonomous in the way we are using it. And this is a huge asset.
It really is.
And once you get the right tools in place so that the incentives, so that the professors are willing to engage, this is where I say it's becoming extremely powerful.
So when you look at the legacy, when people will go back and say, I remember when Joël Mesot was the ETH president. It sounds like some of the things that you're going to view as your legacy are the ones we've just been talking about. It's changing that mindset to the programs. It's changing the way you're looking at funding. It's seizing the autonomy to actually make things happen. What are the things that you want to have seen as your legacy?
My hope is that we have put some pieces in place so that ETH in 10, 15, 20 years from now will still be a top 10 university of the world. Competition is brutal, okay? But I believe we have done a few things that are very special and that allows us to address these issues that the world is needing, and then that will put you on the map or keep us on the map, on the world map.
How would you articulate those? What are those few things in your words?
So faster translation to society, connection to industry. I just remind you that ETH was created with the goal to modernize Switzerland.
Right.
170 years ago.
Same time, it's a contemporary to MIT when MIT was founded,
Exactly,
right?
it's about the same time. The difference being that we are a national university.
Right.
And this mission has remained up to today. You know, back then it was electrification of Switzerland, building railways, building tunnels through the Alps. Actually, one of the first projects was the first Gotthard tunnel. And they needed engineers for that. And now I told already a bit what are the issues. Climate change, we didn't talk too much about climate change. I mean, we can ignore climate change, but it's there, right? And maybe you don't know, but I like to go in the mountain, especially in winter, doing ski touring. And I do that since 40 years now, and even more than 40 years. And so, I mean, you see the change, right?
Is it tangible when you go in the mountains?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there are places where I went last year and, you know, you couldn't pass anymore because there is no glacier anymore.
Right.
The rocks are falling, so it becomes dangerous. So we are investing in this type of research to monitor the changes in the Alps.
Yeah.
And not only in the Alps, but worldwide. And here we are at the forefront. There are other questions that we address that are maybe not so visible. But for example, what kind of values do we want to give to our alumni when they leave ETH? You know, we have 25,000 students and 70% go to industry directly, don't do a PhD or postdoc, they go directly to industry. And what value do you want to give them? We didn't ask these questions maybe 10 or 15 years ago. Now we are addressing this. We have developed a set of competencies that we want the students to develop during their curriculum at ETH, including not only technical competencies, but also social competencies to learn to work together. All this collective intelligence I've been talking about.
Can you give an example of a competency, and especially on something like, I think it's implicit, but the ability to talk about science and to communicate it effectively feels like it's going to be more, not less important.
That's another big challenge that we are tackling, how to communicate what we are doing. And sometimes it's very basic stuff like the value of science, the value of a fact-based research, you know. And then I guess you can imagine what I'm referring to, but you know, you cannot completely interpret every data set the way you want. There are some solid facts that you cannot go around, right? And so explaining this to the public, what are the consequences of this and these technologies, for example? You know, always the positive and maybe the downside of a technology. So we realized that we need to do more in that direction. And that's why this year in October, we will launch the ETH School of Public Policy that will address exactly these kind of questions. We do a lot in that direction already, but it was not consolidated. It was not concerted. And so we believe we have already a lot, but we need to do some more to address at the political level, at the administrative level, that means those who make the laws, and at the societal level. These three layers we need to address.
So you talked about faster translation. You talked about connection to industry. You talked about the context, the values, the communication. Are those really the three pillars that you hope will give
No,
ETH?
there are more pillars.
There are more pillars.
Yes. So one pillar is the fundamentals, what I call the fundamentals, to explain again and again why for a country like Switzerland, where we have very scarce resources,
right?
We have water, forest, and brains, more or less. So we need to invest continuously in our most talented persons. And when I say that, don't take me wrong, I mean we have to protect the dual education system that we have in Switzerland, the apprentice and the university education.
Okay.
This combination is unique worldwide. There are still a few countries who have it, and we realize, and also foreign countries realize how much value there is. Because when we produce something in Switzerland, this is of high quality, you can rely on what is produced. And there are some fields where, I mean, it's perfect to have this. Take space, for example. Why did we go into space? Okay.
Outside of the fact that Thomas Verbunden was interested in coming back?
Well, there was a concept before Thomas.
Oh, okay.
So when I became the president, you do what every president is doing. You visit every department of the school, and then you find out first that all these departments do outstanding research and so on. But you find out that there are topics that are common to several departments. And for me, what struck me was, on one side, AI, that was in every single department,
really?
From mathematics to health science to physics.
I guess it makes complete sense.
And economics.
Yeah.
And social science. Every department had it.
This is in 2019 when you started?
It was in 2019, yes.
Yeah.
But it was not so well known. So we decided to create the AI Center. And since then, there are 1/5 of our faculties are directly engaged into this AI Center, which means, each professor has 10, 15 people. So it's more than 1,000 people working on these AI concepts. From the fundamentals, the theoretical architecture, all the way to the applications.
Yeah.
And we forced people from several departments to work together. So that was the very first thing we did. And that led at the end to the Swiss large language model, Apertus, that we just released. The other topic was around space and the search for the origin of life. And so
it came up in a bunch of the different departments?
4 to 5 departments. And so two things happened. When you see that, I asked for a consolidated paper, a concept on the origin of life. Then I met with Didier Queloz, who is a Nobel Prize winner who discovered the first exoplanet outside the solar system. And he wanted to see if we had a program to look for life outside of the solar system. And then I just opened the document that I had received a few weeks ago. And now he's here co-leading this research topic. I think there are about 30 professors participating from many different departments.
Did you expect space to be a common, you might have expected AI to be a common theme when you started on your tour. Did you expect space?
Yes, absolutely.
Really?
Because you have all kinds of components that fit together, right? From the research topic, you need biology, you need chemistry, you need the physics, you need the engineering to make, the devices that we look for life outside of the solar system. And then we developed also with Vanessa Wood the idea to make a center for space. And then it was a coincidence that Thomas was at ETH, and he was just stepping down from his position at NASA. And so we just asked him, and it went very fast. And now he's co-leading this effort with the Geo Lab, the donation we discussed before. So my message is there are opportunities, but you need to be prepared for the opportunities. And in these cases that I just mentioned, we were ready.
Right.
And so now we are developing similarities in many different fields so that when the opportunity comes, we can be successful by sizing these opportunities.
It feels like education is at another tipping point in terms of how it changes. And it feels like the same thing is also true about how you do basic research and applied research, and that AI is driving many of those changes. Given the amount of change, how do you what will it look like in 10 years? Because it feels almost impossible to predict the consequence of the consequences.
The only thing that doesn't change
is
the change. I don't know who said that, but I mean, it's absolutely right. The difference is the intensity of these changes.
And the pace.
And the density. I call it the density, so it's the pace, okay? And that's new. It's new to a level where I have the first faculties. Imagine a professor of ETH comes to me and say, look, even I'm a specialist in this field,
right.
AI.
Okay.
It's too fast.
Really?
Okay. Then I realize, oh man, so we have an issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Imagine people who are not in the field, don't understand what's happening, right? So this is a real challenge. And now you have two ways to go on with that. Okay, you can just say, no, we forbid it. It's not in our, we don't allow students, for example, to access these tools. Now we did a small survey after ChatGPT was out in the public. Yeah. And then I think it was something like 20% of our professors were using it to set up their lectures, and 100% of the students were using it to solve the exercise, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, were you surprised?
No, it's there. And so we decided to take the approach that since it's there, let's work with it. And then let's make the best out of that. So we are, I think, quite advanced in the concept that we are developing. So to have chatbots based on your own lectures, so that the students can interact with a chatbot, or even to correct for exercises, even handwritten exercises using AI models. So we are developing these models for that purpose.
For your successor, right? What do you see as the 2 or 3 biggest challenges they're going to face?
ETH is still for 3/4 funded by the Swiss state. But that has some limit. Those are technical limits. So in Switzerland, we have a very strict law to fight against the debt of the state. The state needs to have a balanced budget. And through COVID, through the geo tensions worldwide, so we need to increase the finance of our army and so on, the expenses are increasing. If the income or the expense are changing, they need to make what they call consolidated finance programs.
In other words, they have to make trade-offs.
Exactly. And education and the research is an unprotected expense of the Swiss Confederation.
This is not
so
good.
we are
you get cut.
affected more than other domains. And so this trend is nothing new, but it has been accelerating, okay? So it means that we need to find other ways to finance if we want to continue to grow. And so how do we cope with this financial situation where at best we will have a stable financial income, from the state, but with increasing number of students. So this will be the main challenge.
So effectively the business model.
The business model is changing.
Of the university.
Is changing.
Okay.
And then the last challenge, I think, is this dialogue with society that I mentioned. In Switzerland, since we vote on everything, it's a great asset for society to have this constant votation where people, have to deal with sometimes very, very complex issues, right? And Swiss people vote very reasonably, actually. And so I think it's a great asset that we have. But if at some point there is a majority of people that think that universities are not worth to have, okay?
Then you're in trouble.
Exactly. So that's why this dialogue with society is so important. I'm convinced that we need universities just, to attract top talents and to develop this society further.
I mean, you can make a good argument that IBM and Google and Microsoft and all the others, Disney, I'm not sure they would be here if you didn't have an ETH. Let me phrase it differently. They definitely would not.
They would not, for various reasons, because of the talents we produce, and because also very often it was linked to an ETH alumni who studied. But you can go back in time and Nestle, Roche, Novartis, they all had very strong interactions with ETH. So it's not only about foreign companies, it's also about Swiss companies.
So one thing that you haven't brought up is geopolitics, which are getting, I live in the States now, I don't live in Switzerland anymore. It is front and center. I see those headlines all the time. And it's hard. And the world is a different place than it was a year ago. Do geopolitics play a role? Are they going to be an exceptional challenge for your successor?
Yes.
Can you insulate, and is it appropriate to try and insulate the ETH from that?
No, because we are so international, right? We have 9,000 contracts worldwide. More than half is in Europe, but the rest is spread, always on the research side. Everything that happens worldwide, we are affected. I must say I'm very worried by what is happening in US. US is still the champion in research worldwide. And when the champion goes down, everyone is affected. I'm very often asked if there is an opportunity for ETH, to hire. Of course there are, but it's good for nobody.
Right.
Right. It will take a long time to really recover, and there are other effects that, at some point there was a discussion: can Switzerland still have access to the chips of NVIDIA?
Oh, NVIDIA, right.
And it was an amazing situation because nobody knows, but we co-developed the latest chips of NVIDIA. We were the one to debug them. Yeah, that's why we could afford to have 11,000 chips of NVIDIA in the supercomputer in Lugano.
Let's talk about climate. Let's dig into climate and energy. The distressing headline of today was about climate science in the States and the denial of climate science and a Department of Energy report on this and the EPA actions that reflected this and the labs that are cut. And it's not a good time. And for someone who strongly believes that politics do change, but the science doesn't, it's really hard. Is there a particular role that the ETH, I know climate and environment are one of your top priorities strategically, but is there a particular role that you see ETH being able to play in this?
Yes, I believe so. So one of the initiatives that we launched was on it's called CGES. It's the Coalition for Green Energy and Storage.
Okay.
And what was the analysis that we made? On one side, we have our climate scientists working on issues like CO2.
Like Climeworks.
Climeworks or other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So to remove CO2 either from the atmosphere or directly at the point source, think of the cement industry or agriculture.
Yep.
And then what they developed was, well, let's store this in the underground, for example. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you have the energy scientists who were developing concept. What do we do with the surplus of electricity that is produced
when the sun
at midday in summer when you don't really need it? So at the moment, we are wasting this electricity, this energy. So we should store it.
Yeah.
And now, there are some hours of the day where the prices of electricity are negative.
Yep.
So if you take it, you are paid for that.
Yep.
Right? So why don't we produce hydrogen? It doesn't have to be in Switzerland. It could be in a country where the conditions are even better. We import this hydrogen. We have the CO2. Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, you do any kind of synthetic fuel you want. It can be methane, methanol, or whatever, kerosene. And so we engage in this direction, and we go out of the lab. We develop 3 projects in 3 different cantons of Switzerland, and we hope that we can demonstrate these technologies. There are many, many questions. Imagine a component has a lifetime of 5 years or 10 years. It makes a completely different business case.
Right.
Okay. So we need to test all these components, and once we have done this, imagine going out and exporting these technologies. It could be so interesting for our economy, but also for the world. So you are asking, can we do something? I believe we can.
Long duration storage is a hard problem.
It's a hard problem, yes.
That would be great to solve.
But we are not here to address the easy problems. We are here to address,
well put,
the hard problems.
A year from now, when you've left the ETH and your successor is nicely in place, what do you want to do?
It's completely open for me. I must say, since the news were out, since a few months, I got a lot of requests.
I bet.
And at the moment, I said I want to, I don't give an answer. I ask them to come back in 1 year from now, where I will have clearer ideas what I am going to do after the end of 26. At the moment, I'm fully focused on ETH. There is so many things to do, and it's such an exciting time for ETH. And I will work until my last day to serve society. And then when I have clearer ideas about what I want to do, then I will communicate.
Understood. Thank you. That was a great conversation. I'd like to close with the classic questions we ask each of our guests. Mm-hmm. If that's all right. When you were a little boy, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a pilot.
A pilot?
Yes.
Why a pilot?
I was already dreaming of traveling and then, being alone in the cockpit. And then, but then I realized I'm seasick very, very quickly, so that wasn't for me.
Understood. Understood. What are you, I may already know the answer to this question, but what are you curious about right now? What are you trying to learn about?
Somebody asked me, would you study physics again? Mm-hmm. And I answered in a semi-joke, I think I would do something related to psychology. I'm interested in humans, in people. And I'm fascinated, by the way we work, the way we can address collectively these issues, maybe also enter into a conflict sometimes. I find this absolutely fascinating.
Thank you so much. This was our final episode for the We Are ETH podcast, and I'm thrilled that President Mesot was able to join us, and we really appreciate your support and your leadership, and can't wait to see what's happening next.
And I want to thank you, Susan, for making this possible, this podcast. This was a pleasure to look at them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening. I'm Susan Kish, host of the We Are ETH podcast and the We Are ETH series, telling the story of the alumni and the friends of the ETH Zurich, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. It is ranking amongst the top universities of the world in terms of its research, its science, and its people. The people who were there, are there, and the people who will be there. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and give us a good rating on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. And I'd like to close by thanking our producers at ETH Alumni and at LA Media. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us today.